to episode number 16 of the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series right here on the Eastern Observer and the Blackjack Media Networks. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We are welcomed by Alex Katz, current Kansas City Royals relief pitcher. Alex, welcome to the show, buddy. It's been a long time since you and I have seen each other. How are things going with you right now amidst this whole pandemic?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. And everything's been pretty good, just staying sharp, staying ready, waiting for that call, whether it's in the next week or next 2 months. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, obviously with it being a crummy day today and, I do apologize for taking you in, or bringing you inside. Obviously it's, as we said, a crummy day, but I'm sure you got your bullpen session in today, even though it was beyond wet outside, right?
Yeah, well, no, yesterday was bullpen day, so I got it in a nice day. Yesterday was beautiful outside.
Good. Glad to hear that. So glad to hear that you guys are doing well, and let's get things started. For those that do not know, or this is the first time that you guys have been watching the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series, it's a byproduct of our flagship podcast, the Primetime Rundown. And for all of the guests that I have on our show, it's everyone that I have basically run into, have gotten to know, and have become friends with during my 5 years in the sports industry. So for those that want to know how Alex and I met, well, that was through a close friend of ours, a mutual connection in Chicago Cubs hitting coach Anthony Iapoce at the 2017 Iapoce baseball convention at Division Avenue High School in Nassau County. So small world, as actually we were at one point, we didn't even know it. We were actually classmates or peers, if you will, when he went to St. John's, and that's where we'll get into. But let's get to know Alex Katz a little bit more, shall we? So high school on Long Island, that's where you are now. That's where you live. Baseball is the route that you've wanted to take all these years, I would assume. Was it though, Alex? Was baseball the route that you wanted to go down? And how long has it been that you've wanted to play baseball?
Yeah, I think ever since the beginning of Little League, being a professional baseball player was a dream of mine, and obviously hasn't changed since then. So, pretty much most of my life, I remember maybe when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, I wanted to be a carpenter just because I saw my dad do a lot of housework with him and a buddy. But, it probably went from being a carpenter to being a baseball player fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's crazy. Being a carpenter, doing things with your hands, and then obviously taking the bull by the horn and heading the baseball route. And obviously, that has paid off for you. But we will get to that in just a few moments. But you went to high school at Herrick's, second team All Long Island selection and All County honoree as a senior. You were named MVP of the Nassau County Exceptional Senior Game. You earned a 2012 honorable mention, Rawlings Perfect Game preseason All-American, and first team All Northeast Region accolades. So coming out of high school, Alex, and getting offers from, I would assume, all around Division I, and you chose St. John's. If you would like to bring up another place where you were, I would say, offered, were there other places that offered you?
St. John's was the first school to give me a scholarship offer, and I committed the next day. But I was definitely talking to other schools, including Stony Brook, some Ivy League schools, Duke, Boston College. So a lot of good academic and athletic programs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And especially with St. John's 2013 to 2015, you were there for 3 years, and you played under current head coach or current manager, if you will, for the Brooklyn Cyclones, Ed Blankmeyer. And as you were getting courted with other offers such as Stony Brook and potentially going down the same route as closer Joe Nathan, why St. John's? Was there a specific reason besides, the obvious with the Major League Baseball connections?
Yeah, I had two prior instances um, with St. John, so a little bit of history there. So I think I was around 13 or 14 playing travel ball. We actually got to go on the field for the national anthem at St. John's at Jack Kaiser Stadium, and our whole team went to that game. I think it was St. John's versus Princeton, a midweek game. So I remember going on campus and watching those guys play back then. And then I remember going to the first game at City Field. It was St. John's versus Georgetown, and snuck. I don't think I had good seats that game, but I snuck behind the St. John's dugout and was in the St. John's family section talking to all the families. They loved the program, so just had just had good vibes from being around the program just on two instances. And I think from that City Field game on out, it was a dream of mine to play at St. John's, especially knowing that they were close enough for my family to watch me play, and definitely one of the top programs in the Northeast.
Yeah, absolutely. And with having such a storied program going all the way back to Jack Kaiser, Joe Russo, Ed Blankmeyer, the list goes on. You played 3 seasons there. I really want to know, Alex, with you majoring in sport management, could have sworn you played there 4 years, but I was off. Your favorite memory of playing at St. John's, whether it be Jack Kaiser Stadium, on the road. Obviously, I'll give a little spoiler alert. I would assume probably it was one game at TD Ameritrade Field in Omaha, but I could be wrong. Let's hear your.
Yeah, so we went to TD Ameritrade Park twice. We played against Creighton in the regular season because that's where they play their home games, and obviously Big East conference games. I actually pitched in I think every Big East series except Creighton, so I didn't pitch there in the regular season. And then in the Big East tournament, I believe we only played 3 games. I was in the bullpen warming up for I think each of the three, and was about to come in and finish out the championship game. But McCormick ended up coming in and doing the job. So I didn't actually pitch in the Big East tournament. So I never pitched at TD Ameritrade Park, but I pitched a few times in the regionals. I pitched in 2 out of the 3 regional games and started the regional championship game. But
Wow. So you never. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you never pitched in the Big East tournament that year that you guys won.
yeah, no, we played 6 games that year at TD Ameritrade. I did not pitch in one of those games. 3 of them, I
Wow.
believe, in the Big East, 3 in the regular season. Um, but to answer your question, I'd say my favorite memory was pitching in the regionals at Oklahoma State during my junior year. We had a good run, and I started the regional championship against Arkansas. It was a 0-0 game going into the 5th inning, so a really good game. We ended up losing, but we definitely fought hard. And my last batter that I faced in college was Andrew Benintendi, which is pretty surprising. With thousands of players playing Division I in all different divisions. The last batter I faced was the Golden Spikes Award winner.
That's absolutely crazy. Where for those that do not know, or for those that are not baseball fans that are just tuning in, Andrew Benintendi, left fielder for the Boston Red Sox. That is some pretty cool stuff there. So now, obviously, you said that you didn't play in that Big East tournament in your final year, in your junior year, but now I have to ask this question anyway. You're a part of the team. And we actually had a former teammate of yours on just a few episodes ago, Kevin McGee,
Yep.
and I had asked him about the feeling of pitching at TD Ameritrade Park and winning a Big East championship. Now, I didn't get the exact word from him, but I've heard from multiple people, and for a lot of the guests that I've have had on, whether it be athletes, whoever it may be, and winning a championship, whether it be the Stanley Cup, whether it be a World Series, or in your instance, a Big East championship. What is the feeling like? Is it similar to a word like euphoria?
Yeah, I completely agree with that word. I think just a culmination of all the hard work that you put on and off the field really, adds up to that final moment when, everyone's, rushing to the mound or, the field and jumping on each other and pouring Gatorade on each other. It's really a feeling that's hard to describe. And if you haven't done it before, you just don't understand what it's like, and I haven't been a part of a dog pile like that in a while. So you kind of lose what that feeling's like.
Yeah, and also you want it to, like, do you have the feeling of, you know, when when you do it once, you get that spoiled feeling of you're hungry to do it again.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely athletes that have made it far in professional sports who never experienced that. I'm sure there's some Hall of Famers in multiple sports that have never won a championship. So that is interesting to think about. Obviously these are some of the best athletes ever in sports, and they don't know what it's like to win. So that is weird to think about.
Yeah, it's crazy to even, to think, especially when you go to St. John's. It's continuous winning, whether it be
Yeah.
having historical regular seasons, or winning multiple championships in the Big East, and eventually getting to the regionals. Now, you spoke about your last batter being the aforementioned Andrew Benintendi, but playing in the NCAA tournament, and a completely different plethora of opponents that you most likely would not be playing in the beginning of the season or during a midweek non-conference matchup. um how What was your mindset, especially against not only Benintendi, but pitching against Oklahoma State? It's a humongous, it's a different level of baseball, and I'm not undermining the Big East. It's just, there's different levels throughout college and throughout the country, and Oklahoma.
You it froze.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze for for a second.
Okay.
So I missed the second part of the question.
Okay, hold on. Let's see if we can get Alex back. Okay, are you
Yep.
there?
Yep, I hear
Okay,
you now.
cool. All right, cool, excellent. So just to repeat that question. So obviously playing in the NCAA tournament, and you were saying about playing against Oklahoma State in your final start. You're playing against different opponents and teams that you normally would not be playing during a midweek non-conference, I would say, warm up, if you will, for those weekend conference games. Um, what was the feeling like for you to go up against a, a great team such as Oklahoma State, but also from a different conference, who I would assume, I don't know the exact teams that you faced, but I'm assuming Oklahoma State is the first, or that would be the first time that you've ever faced them in your 3-year career.
Yeah, so the regional had Tulsa, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. So I pitched against 2 to 3 teams. I didn't pitch against Tulsa. Um, but pitching at St. John's and pitching in you know, Big East baseball Division 1, it's very interesting because we usually start the season against ACC, SEC caliber schools, maybe Pac-12 schools. Then we come home and play midweek games against more local schools, which obviously aren't as strong as those teams down south or out west. And then we start conference play, and I think the Big East Conference is very mixed with talent. I think there are some really, really good teams, but I don't think the baseball conference is as strong as my freshman year when we had Louisville, UConn, and schools like that. But there is some really good competition in the Big East. Especially schools like Creighton and Seton Hall. So we're playing them every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, probably for, I don't know, 7 weeks straight. Then we have the Big East tournament, which is super competitive. Not every team makes the tournament. I think only the top 4 or 6 teams make it. And then, going into the regionals, it's the same caliber teams that we played in the beginning of the year, but now we're more ready. We typically struggled early on because some teams were more ready than us, being outside and being in the warm weather. But it's a totally different ball game once we played those teams again in May, June. We're just as competitive or even better than a lot of those schools. But my junior year, we opened up at Georgia Tech, legitimate program, and I'm not sure how we did against them. It was a while, I forgot, but we played against them. I think a week or two later, we played at Oregon. Those were competitive games. I remember Tom Hackemer and I no hit them for 9 innings straight, and I think we lost in like the 13th or 14th inning. But just playing against those high caliber schools and even scrimmaging our own team, we had on that 2015 team. When it's all said and done, I think must have been 15 guys drafted from that team of 35. So almost half the team got drafted, I think, or maybe a little less, maybe a third of the team got drafted. So even just scrimmaging our own guys before the season, it gets you ready, it gets you prepared. You're practicing and playing against extremely talented players all the time, and that gets you ready.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But and you hit the nail right on the head, because the last few years, and I know in my senior year at St. John's, trying to call a baseball game at Jack Kaiser Stadium was, it was horrible, because every other game was either delayed, or it was simply postponed, or simply canceled. And the only time that we would be able to do anything would be, either on the road, or we'd have to go to Cincinnati to the Big East tournament, which obviously now that's where it moved from. It moved from a whole different site, a whole bunch of different sites, and now is at the home of Xavier in Cincinnati at Prasco Park. But you said it. It's cold. You can't go outside a lot. It's basketball season. Everything. But, obviously a lot of these teams that you're facing, such as Georgia Tech, as you said, they could be outside all year round, where they are down south, or, out west, or even in the middle of the country. It's substantially warmer for sure. Now let's go to the journey to Major League Baseball, or we'll continue the journey, if we will. So following your time at St. John's, majored in sport management, your journey to Major League Baseball happens in 2015, where you were drafted in the 27th round by the Chicago White Sox. Now, you were talking about the feeling of jumping in the dog pile when winning a Big East championship. Now, how about hearing your name or reading your name along the ticker when you're drafted?
Yeah, it was honestly one of the most frustrating days that turned into an extremely exciting day. Because I was drafted in the 27th round, I think 802nd pick. So to hear 801 other people called before you was extremely frustrating. There were points where I didn't think I was even going to get drafted. And having a fairly decent, or pretty decent junior year, and obviously finishing really strong with some really good outings in the regionals. And talking to some teams and being told that I was going to get drafted a lot higher. There was a lot of confusion on draft day, but once I finally heard my name called, it was a sigh of relief and turned into one of the best days of my life.
Well, now that was actually the next question that I was going to say is that, as the names are coming off the board, and, the alternative, you think to yourself, okay, all these negative thoughts. Am I going to get drafted? What do I do? Where does life take me? Do I go, am I going to get signed as an undrafted free agent? How does that work for you? What was the possible alternative for you if you weren't drafted?
I personally didn't think there was any chance that I wasn't going to get drafted. I mean, with all the rounds and, I knew I was only 20 years old, a lefty, throwing the ball low to mid 90s, had a good year. I, just I try to be as honest as possible. And I didn't think there was a chance that, maybe 1,500 picks. I didn't think there was a chance that I wouldn't be at least one of those 1,500 picks, after just tying everything together. So really, I didn't even think about the chance of not getting drafted until draft day when I heard 800 names called ahead of me. So there really weren't any other thoughts that crossed my mind.
That's pretty good. That is very positive, especially when you wait 800 picks later and, you eventually hear your name, but then after, 500 or 600, and with the amount of rounds that there are in Major League Baseball in their draft, obviously this year is different with only 5. You think to yourself, okay, it's, at some point, a little negative thought, but you were able to keep it all positive, which is fantastic. So you get drafted, as you said, 802nd overall, 2015 Chicago White Sox. That is your new home. The Great Fall Voyagers, the advanced rookie affiliate of the White Sox in the Rookie Pioneer League. This is the road to the big leagues. Now, I want to know this, and I think everyone else wants to as well. But when your road to the big leagues obviously makes this stop, and obviously with minor league baseball, there are many stops before you get to the show. A day in the life of Alex Katz in the Rookie League. What was different from your time at St. John's to your time in rookie ball?
Yeah, so I think it was a pretty smooth transition. I'm a firm believer that it's much harder to go from high school to college than it is from college to pro ball, especially, finishing up the year playing against big 12 schools like like we played against. It was very similar competition. It might have even been better competition towards end of college than the beginning of pro ball. Obviously maybe some more talent in pro ball and those rookie level leagues, but a lot of guys are super, super inexperienced, especially those 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds that were recently signed. Ton of pure talent, but not super, super experienced. So I think my experience from college definitely helped me transition well into pro ball. As far as a lifestyle, I started in the AZL. I was there for a few weeks before going to Great Falls, and the AZL, the games are basically played at your complex. We had an off day every 4 days. We got fed steak and like good meals every single day. So when I was playing there, I thought it was all sunshine and roses. I thought, I'd do well. It's going to be a smooth, easy process. Like I put up good numbers and I'll move to the next level. Then I put up good numbers, I'll move up to the next level. I'd really no idea what it really took to keep making it and keep moving forward, and really how difficult it is. I think it was more of an awakening when I got moved up to Great Falls, and saw the clubhouse meals that we had, and the type of not really living conditions, but just the minor league lifestyle and playing in an old minor league ballpark and the bus rides and stuff like that. Because in the AZL, half the time you're playing against the Dodgers, which you're literally just walking across a little makeshift river in your complex to play them. So there's no fans, and the longest bus ride is probably 30 minutes. So it's definitely a big difference from the AZL to the short season league.
That's wild. Just by walking over the little river and you're playing the Dodgers, and even as you said, like a 30-minute bus ride. That's fantastic because, as opposed to, the time in college where it could be, you're sitting in traffic trying to go over and play Fairleigh Dickinson, and it takes you 3 hours to get there. It's brutal. Or a plane ride to Creighton, and it takes you, 3 hours by plane.
Yep.
So moving forward with your time, in minor league baseball, then you eventually got to the Kannapolis Intimidators, now called the Cannonballs. the Class A affiliate for the White Sox, and you were also at Winston-Salem as well. Talk about your time now in the next league, or I guess one up in the Carolina League, 2016, as we go in chronological order of the life of Alex Katz.
Yeah, so I started the 2016 year in low A, like you said, with Kannapolis. I think I started off doing well, and then I think I did poorly for a week or so, and got sent back to Arizona to the instructional league. I was there for I think a week and a half, maybe. Completely changed my mechanics over. They kind of look funny. Looking back, I kind of wish my mechanics didn't look like that. That was kind of my decision because I was too slow to the plate. You know, guys were stealing on me, so I had to figure out a new leg lift. But I actually got sent back to Kannapolis and pitched really well with those weird mechanics, and then actually got promoted to high A and did really well there. I think I only gave up 1 run in 3 or 4 games, so I finished strong there. And you know, Kannapolis is you know, obviously they got a new ballpark this year, so pretty old school ballpark there. And then, you know, once I got called up to Winston-Salem, it kind of felt like the big leagues a little bit because that stadium is beautiful. And, you know, the clubhouse is like a major league clubhouse, separate cafeteria. The amenities were you know, 100 times better than Kannapolis. So it felt like a huge upgrade. And I was really happy once I got that promotion.
Yeah, so as the years are going on, I see the food is getting better wherever you go. That's
Oh yeah.
that is pretty good, especially all from the White Sox. Now, this is the biggest thing here, and as I was asking you earlier about, you know, the possibility of not getting drafted. Now, we have seen almost everyone. It's rare nowadays that you stay with one team. And for you, you were traded to the Baltimore Orioles for 2 international pool spots. And now we start a new journey for you. You're closer to home, and you're now on the East Coast again. So let's break this down, Alex. You are traded from Chicago to Baltimore. Now, the feeling that goes through your mind when you get that phone call.
The first thing that came to mind, I think it was a 10-second conversation with the front office, basically telling you I was traded. They didn't say what I was traded for. So the first thing that came to mind was, what am I traded for? And I think as soon as I hung up the phone, all the guys all on my team were on the field shagging BP. So nobody was in the clubhouse really. First thing I did was go on my phone on Twitter and just search my name, see who I was traded for. And I think 15, 20 minutes later, I saw it, and then my phone started blowing up. So it's really weird to be traded, especially during the season. You know, when you're just starting to get into the swing of things and trying to get your groove and getting to know your new teammates. And now all of a sudden you're now kind of interrupting everybody else's groove. Not really, not literally, but more figuratively, you know, just being the new face, you know, already a few games deep. Usually when there's a new face in the clubhouse, it's a guy from maybe the lower level being promoted. And you met the guy in spring training, but being a totally new face from a different organization, it is a little bit weird.
Right. Yeah. Especially because, you know, you're basically restarting, and you have to go basically back almost a year to when you were drafted, and you're meeting brand new players, brand new coaches. You know, they may all have, I would say, the coaches, you know, different things for you to try. Possibly. Now, when you eventually got to Baltimore, or you got to, if I'm not mistaken, the Class A affiliate, Frederick. When you get there, what's the feeling like? Again, you were saying you didn't want to interrupt anyone's groove. I'm assuming you slid right in and you felt fine, you know, after a little bit.
Yeah, no, I knew some guys on the team. You know, played against a lot of those guys the year before. They were in Delmarva. I was with Kannapolis. So I knew a lot of the guys and we connected pretty quickly. Um, so it wasn't too big of a transition on that end. I think the biggest transition was going to a new organization and, um, you know, learning their new philosophies and um, reworking how I pitch during the season when the numbers really count.
Yeah. So, you keep your head up as high as possible. And then moving forward after your stint in Baltimore, or in the Baltimore system rather, Frederick Keys, Class A plus Carolina League. Then you were at the Delmarva Shorebirds, Class A South Atlantic League. And then the unfortunate happened where you were released and you became a free agent. Now, it's a little different when you're traded and you're trying to see who you're traded for, Alex. Now, when you're released, the feeling again, and I keep asking this because obviously you've felt it all, whether it be getting drafted very late, getting traded, and who knows? You could have been traded. There could have been a massive trade, and you could have been, that little diamond in the rough in that big deal. But now you get released. What was that feeling like for you?
I was actually in another country. I think it was like 4 a.m. there. I went up to go to the bathroom and I get back into my room and I look at my phone. It's a phone call from the team. Another 10-second conversation. Really, I didn't even get to say one word and it was over. So I think they did it on purpose just so you can't say anything back. They just say basically you're released and then they hang up the phone. So uh, pretty crazy. And I
They
don't know.
caught you at the right time when you had to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't know if yeah. I wonder maybe if I didn't answer the phone, would I not have been released? I don't know. That's kind of interesting to think about. But I think the first thing I thought of was, it's obviously something I can't control. Just got to keep working and hopefully sign with a new team. And then obviously the White Sox called and I'm re-signing with them a few weeks later.
Right. So then, yeah, and then eventually, cat's out of the bag. You went back to the White Sox, and then eventually your little journey back to Major League Baseball took a little bit of a turn, and it went to independent ball and to a place where guys out here on Long Island World Series New York. You played with you played under him as the manager. Now, playing for a former Met and entering the Atlantic League at the same time as you. Let's hear it.
Oh, you broke up again.
You're playing for the Long Island Ducks. Talk about that feeling.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Do you want me to repeat that? Yeah, we're cutting out here and there a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think I heard most of the question.
Okay, yeah.
It was just about the feeling playing for the hometown Long Island Ducks under manager Wally Backman.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I got released by the White Sox. I had a feeling it had to do with velocity because I was throwing really well during spring training, but my velocity was down for some reason. It was frustrating because I didn't know why. I felt good. My mechanics were pretty good. I was throwing slower than I did. I was throwing like 86, 88. I'm usually 92, 94. So that's obviously a big difference. And I completely understood why I got released. So there were a few weeks between being released and the Long Island Duck season. They usually start later April. So, pretty much just made some adjustments with my mechanics and rested for a couple of weeks, took it nice and easy. And I didn't get a contract from the Ducks. I had to try out because they really only give contracts to the AAA guys and the guys with big league experience. It's that good of a league. So I went there as a spring training invite and I threw really well, was throwing hard again, was back to 94 and I made the team. And I didn't pitch much at first early on in the year. I was pitching like once a week, even though I was putting up really good numbers. and, finally earned my spot because, they obviously pitched the veteran guys ahead of me. And after a few weeks, I became one of the main guys and just started pitching a lot more. And it was a good experience there. It was better competition than any um, low A, high A baseball that I played, in. A lot of guys I was pitching against had time in the big leagues, time in Mexico, time in Japan. These guys know what they're doing. And obviously, Wally Backman's a legend. He's a player's coach. The guys love playing for him and brings a lot to the table.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And for those that are Ducks fans that are watching, or avid Ducks fans, if you will, Alex Katz, 13 games, 15 and a third innings pitched, 13 strikeouts. Win-loss record was zeros across the board, but still playing for your hometown Ducks. Pretty cool experience, because not only that, as I did say, I think we were cut off before. The drive home is, and literally home, you don't have to rent an apartment or go to a hotel or anything like that, or stay with anybody. You can literally go to your bedroom where you are now. And what was that feeling like? You're still playing baseball and you're playing it at a high level, and you could still be home.
Yeah, I think as soon as I got drafted, I quickly realized that the next time I'll be playing baseball and at home at the same time was when I was going to play at either Yankee Stadium or Citi Field as a road player. Either with the Orioles or White Sox. But I never thought that I'd be playing for the Ducks and living at home.
Yeah, it's you think about it, and really, when you get drafted, especially in Chicago, when you're going out to play in Arizona, you're on the other side of the country. So there is no returning. And that was actually a question I believe we actually asked Anthony Iapoce too, because when during this whole thing, when you're out on the other side of the country and you hear this, that spring training is canceled and everything along those lines, the feeling is just, I can't even imagine. And that was the next thing I was going to bring up. We're missing a humongous part of your journey, and we'll get to that in a second. But you then signed with the Kansas City Royals, where your shirt says right now, the Royals. That's who you're repping right now, on February 12th, 2020. So that's about roughly 3.5 months ago. And this pandemic started roughly about 2. So your first spring training with them, with Kansas City, and you're familiar with a few of those guys, such as current second baseman Nicky Lopez, who's also a part of your Stadium Custom Kicks journey as well. We'll get to that in just a moment as well. But now, Alex, I want to know, amid this whole thing, you get the phone call, or do you get the phone call? What do you hear when all of this becomes, or when all of this gets canceled? I think we might have lost Alex for just 1 second. So for those that are...
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
There we go. No, it's all good. It's all good. It happens. You see what happens when you live at home? Things just random. Everyone just randomly comes into your room.
Exactly. Can you repeat that question?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for those, so as we did say earlier, you signed with the Kansas City Royals February 12th, 2020. 3 months. It's been about 3.5 months since you've been with the Royals, and you're getting the call saying that it's completely canceled amid this whole pandemic. Let's go to the positive part first. You get signed, or you sign a minor league deal with the Royals, and this is your first spring training with a brand new ball club. You obviously were traded from Chicago, then released by Baltimore, and then re-signed with Chicago. So now you're heading to your third organization. Completely different facilities, completely different people, and completely different coaches. So let's talk about the continued journey to Major League Baseball, and now you're playing with the Royals, and during this whole pandemic, what is going through your mind?
Yeah, so it never crossed my mind that our season would be postponed or any of this going on right now um, would have been going down. Even hearing about this happening in other countries and hearing about the coronavirus hitting a lot of countries. Even on my flight to Arizona, I didn't think anything would ever happen, or I didn't think it would even hit the United States. To be honest, I think most people didn't either. But really, just getting into the swings of things. I was enjoying my time with a new organization. They treated us well over there. Learning a lot, meeting a lot of really good people over there. I only threw 2 bullpens and then was about to throw against hitters and live VPs, and that's when everything took a turn.
Yeah, not only everything taking a turn, but now again, when did you find out, or how did you find out that it was canceled?
It was kind of weird. So with the Royals, the minor leaguers and the big leaguers share the weight room. So we all lift in the big weight room, and I believe a lot of the big league team was in there at the time I was working out. A lot of the big league coaches, including Mike Matheny, I believe, were in there. And I look at the TVs because the treadmills and the bikes have TVs, so while you're doing your cardio, you could watch. ESPN was on it. Said breaking news: Major League Baseball season postponed, spring training canceled immediately. And I think it became dead silent. And then the big leaguers went to the clubhouse and they had a meeting. So I have a feeling something, not really a feeling. I saw that something crazy was going on. I think it was a day or so after the NBA season was postponed. They basically said hey, hang around for 3 or 4 days. We weren't allowed to go to the facility. We basically just hung out at the hotel for a few days. They brought us food there. They had food trucks come to the parking lot, and I thought maybe it would just be a week or two. We would just hang out in Arizona, just stay in shape, run and throw in the parking lot of the hotel or something. But once I heard that friends from other organizations were being sent home, I had a feeling that we would be sent home as well.
Now you're being sent home. Did they tell you that you could have stuck around, or did they really want you to go home?
No, we had to go home unless we had nowhere to go. Some guys are from Venezuela and they really couldn't go home. Even some guys from Europe couldn't go home immediately, but I think some of those guys did go home. So, I don't know, 190, 200 players in the organization. I'd say 98% of them went home.
Yeah. Well, again, lucky that you were able to get a flight back really quick here to Long Island, because obviously it's been 2 months and counting, and we won't go into the into the details with baseball for right now, with everything going on, but let's stick to a more positive route and where you were in 2017. And for those that have not watched The Last Dance, and Alex, I'm going to take a wild, I'm going to take a shot in the dark here. I'm going to say you watched The Last Dance.
Yep.
Okay, good. So for those, I'm not going to spoil anything. So we'll go all the way from 2020 back to 2017, and we'll keep going back here and there. Try and keep it as organized as possible. But the 2017 World Baseball Classic, Team Israel. Now, this means something to you. There's no bigger feeling of not only having a dual citizenship with Israel, but you're playing with fellow big leaguers, Ryan Lavarnway, Ike Davis from the Mets at the time, and then obviously with the Oakland Athletics. You played for Team Israel in Japan, and talk about the journey to get to the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, so I was invited to play on the qualifying team in fall of 2016, and we won all 3 games. I didn't pitch in any of those games. They only pitched. I was the second youngest on the whole team. They pretty much just pitched the veteran guys. But it was still, in something like that, it's all about the team. Nothing, there's no I at all. It's all about the team, especially when you're representing something so great as a whole country. So that was an amazing feeling to win that qualifier. A few weeks later, or maybe a few months later, um, I received a phone call that I made the roster for the main tournament. So that was a super super exciting um, time, especially to go from pitching in single A ball, 3,000 fans maybe, to now 50, 60,000 fans on the world stage in a tournament against big leaguers that I grew up watching.
And if I'm not mistaken, obviously, when you guys pitched in Japan, it was the infamous Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, so we started off in Korea at the Sky Dome in Seoul, Korea, and then we won the first round and pitching. We ended up playing the Tokyo Dome. And growing up, Tokyo, Japan, and visiting the Tokyo Dome, watching a game there was the number one place or country that I wanted to visit.
That's crazy. And I think I remember because you were on the New York Pro Scouts channel with Jesse Manning, I believe, last week or the week before. And I believe he did ask this, but I still will ask it anyway. The Korean Baseball League obviously is going on right now, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe he had asked you if you stay up to watch that, and I believe you said no because it was a little late, right?
Yeah, I watched one or two games, but the time is crazy. I can't be staying up that late every single night.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, obviously
I wish that they repeated it at a more reasonable time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's more for the the insomnia folks that are out there. But so again, you going to the world stage and pitching in the World Baseball Classic, pitching in the Tokyo Dome. Now, I got to ask this because you've been around Major League Baseball. You've been around the Big East and all throughout here in the States. Now you go again to the world stage and you go to the Tokyo Dome on the other side of the world. Biggest difference that you thought at the time was what?
Between baseball in America and baseball over there, I think,
and also the fans too.
I think the fans is the most obvious thing. They don't have walkout songs blasting through the speakers. They have bands in the outfield and cheerleaders dancing to that walk-up song throughout the player's whole at bat. So, if Mike Trout is hitting,
really?
So Mike Trout will have his own walk-up song from that band, and fans will be cheering, and the band will be playing that song throughout all of his at bat, which is pretty crazy. Usually it gets kind of quiet in America after the walk-up song is played. Maybe just some white noise or fans cheering or yelling, but like super super loud music. Not even obviously not through the speakers, just around the whole stadium because there's seats in the outfield and the infield. So it was unlike any other baseball games that I've ever played in. As far as the style of baseball, they pretty much just pitch backwards. They're throwing junk when they're behind the count, early in the count, just whenever. So I think that there's an advantage for American pitchers. I think if we pitch to our American style, it really it makes it hard for some of those hitters over there.
Yeah, so you pitched 4 games, I believe there, 3 1/3 innings. And when you were there and you step foot on the mound and you hear all of these, all the music, and you hear the band and you hear music all around you, something completely different from what you are used to, in your 20 plus years on this earth and playing baseball. What was the biggest, I would say, difference for you that you had to adjust to as a pitcher?
I think just controlling my adrenaline. I've never pitched with that much adrenaline before.
Even with the even with all of the music going on and everything, because obviously we are used to being quiet during the at-bat. And now with all of this, you had to control the adrenaline. There wasn't any other problems that, or I guess issues that arose when you were on the mound.
No, but the craziest thing is that the bullpens are underground underneath the dugout, and it's just soundproofing on the walls and the ceiling. So it felt like we were in our living room watching the game on TV, and then, no adrenaline. And then 5 seconds later, running out of the dugout, and it's crazy, crazy loud. And I think the adrenaline hits harder because you're going from a dead silent room to now a stadium full of noise.
That's crazy. So one last Major League Baseball question that I would like to ask here. And normally a day in the life, you'd figure, of Alex Katz in spring training and also while you were abroad, if you will, in Japan. Now, I had asked you the difference between the college ranks, and then now to minor league baseball. Now I'm going to ask you this. So now from minor league baseball, what would a day in the life on game day of Alex Katz be in Japan?
Game day in Japan. I gotta think back a few years. I've played a lot of games since then. I don't know. I think we played day games and night games. I'll talk about a night game. I believe in Japan, I walked to get food a lot. So there's a lot of good food places around there. I thought that there'd be a lot of teriyaki chicken. That's like Americanized Japanese food, but there's a lot of pork. They eat a lot of pork over there. It's a lot of fun to eat at restaurants over there because you're not supposed to tip. It's like frowned upon to tip. So you could literally go restaurant hopping.
Yes, I've heard that.
Eat at 2 or 3 different restaurants, and it works because you're not giving a $5-10 tip every time you eat. You could grab something light at one and go to the next place and try it. So I think I did that a lot for dinner. For lunch, I don't really remember exactly what I ate for lunch. I think we might have eaten lunch at the ballpark because for night game we would get there pretty early. I know at the Tokyo Dome in the clubhouse they had a chef and a little cafeteria there, so they had a assortment of food for us to eat, and then we would take batting practice, go back in the clubhouse. I think maybe they would have some light snacks before the game, and then we'd obviously have the game and come back to the hotel. I think that's when I would go back and walk with a few of the guys on the team and check out some of the restaurants.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, especially a brand new country, completely different continent, and again being on the other side of the world in a place where you were never there. I'm assuming that was your first ever time in Japan.
Yeah, first time in Japan, and something to add, it's pretty cool to walk around the streets in Japan. Just looking in the restaurants and the bars and the cafes and seeing the other World Baseball Classic games being played on TV. And, those people, don't notice you. We obviously stick out, as Americans, we stick out in foreign countries. So, just walking by and, thinking that those people, they obviously don't realize that those people they're watching on TV are the same people that are just walking on the sidewalk right next to them.
That's wild. Yeah.
And then us from our perspective thinking, like they're going to be watching us on TV in just in a few hours. So it is pretty cool.
Now, you actually just said that, and that's a perfect segue into the next question that I want to ask you, because you're a Mets fan, I believe.
Yeah, I grew up a Mets fan.
Okay, so yeah, right. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, from what I remember you had told me when we had met, and also I had to confirm that on the St. John's website as well, your favorite athlete then, and I don't know if it's changed, was Southpaw Johan Santana.
Yeah, I'd say Billy Wagner and Johan Santana were two of my favorite baseball players growing up.
So now let's see a comparison from fan to player.
Yep.
what is the feeling like going from fan to player? How weird is that for you, or was weird for you?
I think the weirdest, not really weird, the coolest thing was, going to the complexes or having games, and then, having guest instructors like Jim Tomey and guys like that, just going about their business, um, just coaching the guys. I mean, most of the time as a fan, you see those guys, there's, hundreds of fans trying to get close to them, get their autograph. And obviously the players can't be themselves in those atmospheres. They obviously are acting. People naturally act different when they're around people they feel more comfortable around, or maybe around their friends or family, stuff like that. I feel like you have to, you know, um, you're just more loose when you're around people you feel comfortable with. So to see guys with, big name guys like that, who I'd probably be chasing around for autographs as a kid, now being in the same work environment as them is a pretty cool feeling.
And also someone who's also been enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame too, teaching you how to play, or watching him teach others how to play, right, just right in front of you. Must be surreal to see that, right in the flesh. Now, a business move for you, and this is the biggest thing here on the docket for Alex Katz. And Alex, you're putting your sport management major to work here, and you started something called Stadium Custom Kicks. And this to me is phenomenal, because I've seen multiple people wear your cleats, and I'm talking to the one who I've seen on television, and we've seen Carli Lloyd, Corey Levin. It's just, this is, and again, now Major League Baseball teammate for you, Nicky Lopez as well, as we were talking about. The list goes on for you. Felix Hernandez, King Felix. And also, if I'm not mistaken, your new business made David Wright's final pair of cleats.
Yeah, he hung up the cleats that we painted for him. And, like we mentioned before, I grew up a Mets fan, and David Wright was in his prime when I was growing up. So that was definitely one of the coolest projects that we've had.
You got cut off there. Just say that one more time. We heard David Wright.
Yeah, so growing up a Mets fan, David Wright was one of my idols growing up. So that was a really cool moment.
Yeah. So how did this all start for you? How did Stadium Custom Kicks become what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, it just started off. I wanted some cleats for the World Baseball Classic, and I thought it was a good opportunity to get custom cleats, because I was with the White Sox and we had to wear solid black cleats, not pitching in front of many fans. So, being on the world stage, and, in just the environment that I was going to be in, obviously no rules on cleats. I thought it'd be a cool time to customize my cleats. And, I didn't really know anyone that did it. So, I pretty much just did it myself. I guess I knew some people that did it, but it was kind of last minute, and I didn't think I had time before the tournament to send them in. So I just painted them with a friend, and they came out good, and just opened up an Instagram account, got all my friends and family to follow us, and then they started ordering. We were charging them $10 just to cover the materials. We still didn't really know what we were doing, and just over time we grew. A lot of my teammates and friends of teammates have ordered and continue to order. And, now we've gone to the point where we have 10 artists. So it's definitely grown over the last few years.
Yeah. Grown is an understatement. And for those, I brought this up actually on my podcast, where you have entrepreneurs like yourself, going to, and and showing what they have in terms of showcasing their product, if you will, on Shark Tank. And you didn't even have to do that. You came out there and you took the bull by the horn. And now, if I'm not mistaken, just by looking at this account here, is this right, Alex? 700,000 followers? 700,000 followers, in that range?
No, about 90,000. Which page are you looking at?
Hold on one second. I could have sworn hold on one second. I have to see this.
I don't know. Maybe I got to check my phone. Did we just gain 610,000
let me
followers?
see, because we're having, like I said, we're having a lot of problems here with our internet here. So let me see if I'm looking at the right page here. But so we'll go with your answer here with seven. You said 70. Hold on, let's see. Or in 90, sorry, 89.1. So 89,100. Okay, so
exactly. I wish we had
Alex.
700,000.
In due time, you will. That's for sure. So again, right. So just by looking at this, and I do apologize. I'm going to give you a follow. I don't know why I never did that. But 89,101 now.
Let's go.
To get to where you are now, you've been featured on multiple platforms. And when we say platforms, we don't only mean social media. We mean the MLB Network. And you made an appearance this past January, and you spoke with Matt Vasgersian. And we all know who he is, the voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And you got to sit down and you got to speak with him and speak about your journey to making stadium custom kicks. And talk about how it's evolved to blossom to the other major sports around the country and the globe.
Yeah, so we definitely grew the fastest in baseball just because of my personal connections, understanding of the industry, and baseball world is super small. Everybody knows each other. So even the guys who I personally have never met, we might know of each other or have connections, mutual connections. So, everybody knows somebody that knows somebody. It really is a small world. So, just doing work for a few guys now, all their friends and teammates and their followers will see that. And, it kind of just grew off social media, the power of social media, and being able to spread a message fairly quickly has grown the business. And, we started with working with a few other NFL players and, just growing through social media and networking with other people in the football industry. So we're definitely trying to be as big in other sports as we are in baseball. And that's obviously a work in progress.
Well, I was going to say, you say work in progress, but I think if I'm not mistaken, and again, I did mess up here with that on Instagram. So I'm going to ask you this question. And from what I saw on that same exact account, U.S. women's national soccer team player Carli Lloyd. Is that right?
Yeah, she actually rocked our custom cleats, I think the last game of this past season.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. I think there's a lot of markets that we haven't really tapped into. There's so many sports out there, even professional sports. There's so many different leagues and sports throughout the whole world. And we obviously work with athletes and, people in all different countries. So I think there's a lot of room for growth there.
Yeah, and you can continue to grow. I don't know how much higher you can get with Carli Lloyd, before. Hey, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Cristiano Ronaldo gets a pair of these cleats. This is something. This is amazing, and with everything going on and the uncertainty, and I don't mean to add fuel to the fire for those that are watching and has heard of the minor league cuts today, but you look at God forbid a fallback option here.
Yeah,
Alex, And this is phenomenal what you've started here. And obviously, I truly wish you the best in terms of your career moving forward. But again, seriously, do you believe, or did you ever think that something like this would evolve to what it is today?
No, not at all. I mean, I pretty much just started the company um really as a joke, like kind of like a side hustle. Maybe I'd make $10 here and there. And that was kind of what it was the first year. I didn't really make much money, but it covered my Chipotle bills. Um, but no, hopefully I'll be having the same conversation in 5-10 years, and even make fun of myself now for not visualizing what it's going to eventually become. So obviously it has grown a little bit bigger than I thought, and I hope that it continues to grow, because I don't ever want to be content. I want to be happy. I want to be a happy person, and be grateful for whatever I've done, and whoever has helped me get to where I am. But I feel like there's always room for improvement, and I feel like that's the only way to get better at something, is to not feel content.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because there's always room for growth, and especially as you spoke about earlier, when you win that first championship, you want more, and you're hungry for more. And especially for you, when you sell your first pair of cleats, you want to keep selling them, and that is what you're doing, and you're doing it at a fast pace, my friend. Really, really good stuff. Now, as we head into the eighth inning of this interview here, now, and where we've been cooped up at home. You, sir, have made a fantastic bullpen in your own backyard. That I think is the coolest thing. And what you've done is, again, surreal, but for those that do not have that luxury or that privilege, if you will, um, with crummy weather today and being told to stay in, for any young aspiring athlete, especially baseball player, who may mentally be on the downfall, if you will, mentally or physically, because of this pandemic, and it's obvious, or it's inevitable, if you will, that things could potentially happen to those, if they don't keep their head up straight, or head up high, if you will. What's your advice to those that do not have the luxury that both you or I do, where we could be outside, or in your case, have a bullpen in your backyard?
I think it's just to be optimistic and realize that better times will be there. Um, you know, in in your whole lifetime, we're gonna look, maybe even a few months down the line, looking back at this time period, this pandemic, it really is such a small sample size in someone's life. So you can't really, you have to think maybe a little bit more long term here, and just realize that it's such a small percentage of your whole life. You have a whole life to live. I don't think a couple months, or even 4 or 5 months, you know really, it really all depends on how you take it. Obviously it's different if you lost a loved one, or if someone got really sick during this time. That obviously is totally different than someone who's not been affected like that. I feel like everybody's been affected in some way, whether they lost a job, or they have to sanitize their house 1,000 times a day, or maybe their business that they built up for the last 30 years is in shambles. I feel like everybody throughout the whole world has been affected in some way, but I think a lot of positive things can be done in this time. I feel like ideas that you've had, you could really go ahead and and get them going. I feel like there's going to be a lot of new businesses that come out of this. People are going to be home working on them. It's also an opportunity to give back to people that really need help. So I think everybody's in a different situation. And I feel like no matter what bad thing happens in this world, there's always a positive that comes out of it.
Yeah, there's always some silver lining there. Now, because of, again, not only everything that's gone on here, but just throughout your whole life, the people that you want to thank the most for getting you to where you are today in a baseball sense, biggest inspiration in a baseball sense for you, Alex, would be who?
I'd say my whole family. My sisters and my mom and dad have been super, super supportive of my career. And, obviously can't thank them enough. And they continue to support me. I know how close I am to making it to the big leagues. Being at the upper levels of the minor leagues, in a few years deep in my career, I know how close I am. And they realize that they still need to keep supporting my baseball career. If they want me to make it, you can't make it by yourself. You need somebody there to help you. It's really hard to make it far in life by yourself. No matter how little that support is, if it's a little support or a lot of support, it all can go a long way.
Yeah, that's that is pretty good because when you have your parents behind you the whole time, that's and your family, not only your parents, your whole entire family, that's really amazing. Again, when some people have to do it themselves, you have, if I'm not mistaken, you have a couple of sisters, if I'm right?
Yeah, I have 2 older sisters.
That sound right to you, Alex? Couple of sisters you have? 2
Yeah.
older sisters, right? Yeah. So so that's, like, again, really amazing where you have 4 others that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. We're just having a little internet issue. Tried to figure this out. I don't know. We're doing the best we can, but for those again that are keeping up here, I do see on the analytics chart, we do have a whole bunch of viewers here still hanging in there. So we do appreciate that. Both Alex Katz and myself really do appreciate it. Again, 15 minutes past the top of the hour, 9:15 here on the East Coast. Again, that's Alex Katz. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We're almost finished here. We are in the top of the 9th inning of this interview here. And really, again, things have come out today. We will not in a little rapid fire, if you will, going back to the interview with the scouts. Do we see you pitching this year, and do we see baseball back? Either yes or no?
I think yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's good. So now we'll head into the bottom of the 9th here. And we've asked this question to everybody. Going back to personal projects with St. Francis College, Brooklyn behind the Terriers, we've asked head coach, women's basketball head coach Linda Simino what her favorite ice cream was. We've asked NBC Sports California's Brett Hedican what his favorite ice cream was, and we got these responses. Americone, Ben & Jerry's, and we've also got mint chocolate chip. We also had from Jake Zimmer, we've gotten cookie dough as well. So now I shall ask you this, Alex Katz, because we have been keeping a tally and we need something to look forward to. But you do say that baseball is coming back, or you believe that you will be pitching again this year. So in addition to that being said, what is your favorite ice cream flavor that you're most looking forward to having possibly right after we're off here?
I actually just had a scoop of ice cream before this.
Okay.
But not my favorite flavor. It was butter pecan, but
okay.
My favorite flavor is probably vanilla soft serve with rainbow sprinkles.
Ooh, okay, all right. That is, and I
gotta love it, right?
Yeah, that is pretty good. And you know what? And I will add, I will ask this. We're not there. There is no advertising here, but we'll still ask it anyway because we're not that big yet. But is that a Carvel soft serve, Mr. Softy soft serve? Because we are here in New York, so I got to ask that.
When it comes to someplace local, I have to say Marvel in Long Beach.
Okay, all right, okay. Oh,
Have you ever been there?
I haven't been there in. Okay, I think I was there once, and watching. So we'll leave it at that. I'll tell you after this. But yes, I was there once there. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Alex. Final question here. Now we asked you about The Last Dance earlier and going back and forth and everything. In addition to keeping yourself hot and everything, keeping your arm in shape, keeping everything in shape, staying warm, if you will. Quality family time. This is completely different territory for you, especially within the last 5 years for you. More quality time, house projects that you're doing, watching The Last Dance, other Netflix series, any other hobbies that you've picked up during this 2-month hiatus, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think family time is super, super important, but I feel like I've been home for way too long. Since I've been released, I played for the Ducks, lived at home, and then was home all off season. So, as much as I love my family, I would definitely much rather be playing ball right now. As far as housework, building the bullpen in my backyard took about a month. I chopped down 4 trees all by hand with a handsaw. Did not have a chainsaw. And had to deroot all of those trees. So that took a while. I think I lost a few pounds doing that. That was a lot of work, and obviously leveling out the ground and doing a lot of landscaping. That was pretty much all the housework that I plan on doing right now. Maybe the longer it takes, I'll start doing more, but I don't know if my family would be too happy if I start taking apart the house.
yeah, you just make like a little stadium or something like that. That would be pretty good. And then they'd have to live in the clubhouse or in the batting cages or anything like that. That would be something for sure. So that's really good to hear. Now that you're home and as you did say before, with you being home last year when you were with the Ducks. Now it's like, all right, Alex, get out again. We liked the first couple of years when you were on the road and everything. Now we're seeing you too much, a little bit. So, but really, really, really good stuff again, all joking aside. I'm really happy to speak with you again. And you continue doing your thing, keep making sure that this Stadium Custom Kicks just keeps on growing. And eventually you're going to get to 700,000 Instagram followers. I'm almost certain because I thought we went viral.
I thought we went viral, and I looked back at my phone to see if we gained that many in an hour.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, that would be something, because then we'd be going viral too. So for those that are still with us here, Alex, please let us know where we can find Stadium Custom Kicks, social media, website. Please give us all the information.
Yep. So stadiumcustomkicks.com. We have a lot of designs on there, all different sports, and you could just order straight from the website. Otherwise, at Stadium Custom Kicks on Instagram and at Stadium CK on Twitter.
That's perfect. Well, for those that want to know more about Stadium Custom Kicks, we will be posting. And also he'll be getting. Did you have another page in the beginning when you first started this?
What was that?
say, with Stadium Custom Kicks, did you have another page before this one?
Yeah, with my old company, and then we obviously rebranded.
That's it. That's what I have. That's what I was thinking originally. Okay, right. Okay, so now you're going to be you're going to be getting all the follows from me again. So again, I do want to apologize in advance for flooding your social media accounts, but we're going to be retweeting everything from you just so all of our followers and viewers from this evening can see and to go shopping. Hey, listen, economy's starting to get back up. Maybe spend some money on
we gotta support
Stadium Custom Kicks.
We gotta support our local businesses, right? Small businesses. Support your small businesses.
That's right, exactly. And here on Long Island, Alex Katz is and his local business. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Alex Katz, Kansas City Royals prospect pitcher. Alex, I can't thank you enough for joining me here this evening on the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series. I do apologize for the internet issues. Obviously, it can't be perfect. Amid this whole thing, it is raining outside, and there's probably 8 zillion people on the internet and flooding the internet lines around here, or maybe where you are, or both. So I do thank you sincerely.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Definitely enjoyed being on.
I'm really, really happy to hear that. So before Alex, before you do go, closing credits though, episode number 5 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast comes to you next Tuesday, June 2nd, right here on the Eastern Observer. That will start at 6 p.m. Join Tyler Riddell and Al Carl as they speak about the past week in wrestling. And then also episode number 17 of this show, the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series with New York Boulders brand ambassador John Thompson and Rockland Community College basketball public address announcer will be joining us here 6 p.m. Monday, June 1st, right here on the Eastern Observer. Also follow us on our brand new Instagram account at the Eastern Observer, also on Twitter at Observe Eastern, as well as liking our Facebook page at the Eastern Observer. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us at the Blackjack Media Networks, we'll see you next time. Good stuff, big man.